Hey boys and girls, today I want to review with you a few fraction basics, which is going to be the topic of our conversation today. So you guys have been learning about fractions probably for a few years now, but something that I find is that we forget exactly what a fraction is. Remember, a fraction is a part of a whole. So for example, you might have a whole pizza, but you might only eat a fourth of that pizza. That 1/4 is a part of the whole. It represents one piece out of a total of 4 pieces. The different parts of a fraction are the numerator, which is that number above the fraction bar, which represents the part. So again, the numerator represents the part. The denominator is the number under the fraction bar, and the denominator represents the whole. Equivalent fractions are fractions that have the same value. You can find an equivalent fraction, as you can see down below, by first finding the unit fraction. That step really isn't required, but it does help us to see when we have equivalent fractions. So for example, in these few examples down here at the bottom, I start off with a half that I have shaded in. I increase my whole, not in quantity, but in pieces. I go from having 2 pieces to having 4 pieces. When my whole changes to 4, my part changes to 2 in order to maintain that 1/2 amount. Same thing as I continue on. I've changed my whole into 6 pieces. In order to maintain my half, I have to contain 3 out of the 6 pieces in order to keep this as an equivalent fraction. And the last example here is taking the half and splitting it into eighths. If I wanted to represent 1/2, like I started with, I would need 4 out of the 8 pieces. All of these equivalent fractions can be simplified or reduced to 1/2. Now let's take just a second to go over some important vocabulary words. These need to be highlighted and glued down in your notebook so that you can access them at any time. Again, a fraction is a part of a whole, so it represents a piece of something else. The numerator is that number on top. It shows the part. It shows how many pieces you have. The denominator is on the bottom. It shows how many pieces your whole is divided into. Every single whole number, like the whole number 4, has a denominator of 1 because it's a whole number. It's not split into any pieces. It's one piece. Equivalent means that 2 things have equal value. For example, taking 2/4 of a pizza is the same thing as saying that you took half of that pizza. Now let's review 2 very important words that we're going to be talking about a lot. One is factor. Factor are the numbers that are multiplied together in order to create a product. In return, a multiple is a number that you get when 2 numbers are multiplied together. So the multiple is an answer. It's kind of like a product. So factors create multiples, and multiples have factors, numbers that they can be divided by. Take a look down below at some examples. We've got some examples of multiples. Multiples of 3 are going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, anything that you multiply 3 by and get a product. which means in return, 3 is going to be a factor of all those numbers. Multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, very similar to skip counting. And again, all of these multiples or products have 5 as a factor because 5 was one of the things that was multiplied to create that product. I know this is a lot of information, but it should have been a review for you. So make sure that when you complete the Google Classroom assignment, you are reminding yourself about what an equivalent fraction is and how to find equivalent fractions.